What's poppin'? Welcome to the show, Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, show 97. I am your handsome host with the fresh cut, Gene Walzak. And to my right on the screen, I got the man, the myth, the legend, Uncle Shally. What's poppin', Shally?
What's up, buddy? No beard here. Congrats on the big win last night.
Huge win. To my left, I got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Cottrell, ready for the college season.
I 100% am. I'm more curious though to hear about how your rivalry goes this time around.
There isn't one.
We're on the same team. There is no rivalry.
Oh,
Shally came back to the Cove. He came back to the home. It was welcome back with open arms last night and a 25-10 win.
It's like LeBron.
But we got it. Exactly. He said he's coming home.
Minus the press
conference. Help us win a chip. Yeah. He's coming home to help us win a chip. But we got a lot to get into today. Fernando Tatis. We'll talk about that. It's jeez, man. Fernando Tatis, 80 games out for the year. After that, we're going to get into our wide receivers list, or I call the Divas list. You got Patti LaBelle, all the divas, Beyonce Knowles. I want Cottrell comparisons too. Also, after that, we're going to have Mount Rushmores. We got Bay Area, San Francisco versus San Diego. We got UFC talk. You know, I guess an okay fight, maybe. And then we got SEC, best conference in college football. Best conference in college football. We're going to talk about that. And don't argue with me, Cottrell. It's the best conference. I see you ready. It's the best conference.
It's getting closer and closer every year.
You got three fans of the Big Ten in here. No, thank you.
Listen, I'm a fan of college football. Georgia won me some money last year, and
if I was a Penn State fan, I'd say that too.
Facts.
Starting early.
Jump off. I need to get off now. Pick another team to beat the big bad Ohio State. All right, so let's start with Fernando Tatis.
Oh.
I want to get into that first. Tatis, 80 games suspended. So first thoughts on Tatis' suspension, on what he said the reasoning behind it was to treat ringworm. Do you believe that? Do you feel like that there's actually like any truth and clarity behind that? I'll start with you, Shally. Lead us off with some Tatis info.
I mean, listen, it's funny because we talked about this last week, not in this aspect, but, coming down the stretch, what was San Diego going to look like? What was New York going to look like? What the Dodgers going to look like? And two of those teams have drastically different outlooks than they did when we talked about it last Wednesday. Listen, San Diego's done pretty well without him this year, but I mean, they were also counting him coming back for the stretch run, and now that's not happening. That Juan Soto trade looks even larger and more important now. But to answer your first question, no, I don't believe it. There's a lot of stuff coming out that is, he used it to, accelerate his rehab from his wrist because he had a couple setbacks. People are saying it's this, and this. It's not. I did a little bit of research on it. I looked it up. It's on every ban list that there is for everything. It is a derivative of testosterone. It is categorized by the FDA and, USADA and all them. It's categorized as an anabolic steroid. That's what it is. I don't know how many people use that to treat ringworm. That's the excuse he's going with. I think his dad did him a big disservice by speaking out as much as he did. He's kind of blaming everybody but his son, and that's a problem for me. But this isn't some new substance either. This is what D. Gordon and Freddie Galvis got suspended for. That's what they got popped for. And they weren't using it for ringworm. They said they were using it to, get stronger and whatever else. And they admitted it when they got caught. So no, I'm not buying the ringworm thing. And it sucks, man. It puts into question a lot of what he did last year right off the bat. One we'll never know if he got tested or not last year. That obviously that information's never going to come out unless somebody absolutely leaks it. But if he wasn't tested last year and he was on it, he put up some big numbers last year. I mean, you could argue after last year, before he got hurt, I mean, you could argue he was the biggest star in baseball. Burst onto the scene, great kid. I still like him. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, this is a big hit for him. It's a big hit for him. We've seen, I know we're looking way far ahead here, but you've seen how the Hall of Fame has treated people who've gotten caught, for banned substances. I think maybe the only thing possibly going for him is it happened when he was so young. And if he can stay clean for the next, let's assume 15 years and he stays healthy and
everyone won't forget about it.
And he puts up the same numbers, I think you could see a chance of him getting in. But listen, man, I mean, it's a big dent to his reputation. And it's, it sucks. It sucks for baseball. I mean, I do agree that part with his dad, but, him and David Ortiz coming out and saying it's bad for the game. Well, yeah, it is. It's bad for the game when one of the stars gets caught cheating. So it sucks, but it's not baseball's fault. I like his response to it. Again, I wish his dad just never would have said anything, to be honest. He took responsibility. He said he said he was responsible for everything that goes in his body. He should have done more research. He took accountability, and I'll take that at face value for him. He doesn't have any history of any of this stuff before, so I'm okay with that. I think his dad and David Ortiz made it worse for him, to be quite honest.
So David Ortiz, I'll get into that in a minute. Let me at least shout out to some of the people in the chat. I wanted to at least say hello to them. I apologize. I did that before. What's happening? Key in the building. What's happening? Big Play Slay, Divas List, Joseph Jeffers, Eric Rosenblum. Appreciate you guys. And Chris Charlton, let me read his comment. Let them all juice. Make baseball great again. Cottrell, your thoughts on Tatis? Anything that you want to add to what Charlie said?
Yeah, so I mean, the basis of your first question, I don't believe it. I do think that he was trying to recover from this injury that he had, especially given that we've heard, all season that he keeps having these setbacks. I think he was kind of trying to find a way to, get back a little bit sooner. Not necessarily, I mean, it is cheating for what it is, but I don't think he was trying to necessarily gain, competitive advantage. I think he was trying to get back from injury faster, and he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. I think that exactly what he said. I'm okay with his statement. Like Bill said, though, his dad 100% made this whole situation a million times worse. Not only did he not hold his son accountable, he basically doubled down on saying how much of the MLB is going to miss his son and how bad it is for baseball. So I like Bill said, I 100% agree. It is bad for baseball not having one of your star players playing. But at the end of the day, you can't have people doing steroids and playing the game. I don't necessarily think it taints his season from last season. I do kind of disagree with Bill on that point, just because to his credit, he didn't have any of those issues. He didn't have any of those issues last year. He didn't fail any drug tests. There was no questions about him failing drug tests or anything like that. So I truly believe that it was him trying to get back from this injury, and he got caught. So it's one of those things. It is what it is. Hopefully he never gets caught again. 80 games is a steep punishment, especially when, that ends his season this year. The Padres were trying to make a run. 80 games, no matter how long their season goes. If they play every possible game in the playoffs, he's not playing this year. So that's a big blow to that Padres team, but hopefully he can rebound it for the rest of his career.
So I am of the inclination that Cottrell's, I love Cottrell so much. He sees the good in everybody. He sees the good in every human being. He thinks that rainbows and butterflies are real things. And I just don't believe that. So I'm going to take that a step further. Okay. I think that every person that does steroids gives a BS excuse. Oh, I was doing it for this. I didn't know it was on the list. I was doing it. Bullshit. You got caught. No one's going to say I did steroids because I really wanted to cheat. It's just not. They're all going to give an excuse. Ringworm, I had acne. I don't know, like whatever it is, it's an excuse. I don't believe it. I don't believe it for one bit. I don't believe anybody when they say that there was steroid issues and like the only ones I'll actually like listen to are non-performance enhancing drugs. Like I don't know, like Ritalin or ADHD medication and things of that nature that are banned substances in the NFL. Things of that nature I'll listen to, but not performance enhancing drugs, not basically growth hormones. And I don't believe in that. And if you say he did it, all right, so the last thing I disagree with, right? If you're saying you don't think he did it to cheat the game, he was just trying to get over an injury, like he didn't do it like to enhance his performance, he was just trying to get over an injury, I feel like that's cheating the game. Because if someone's out and they're injured and you're using a performance enhancer to get back while everybody else has to go through the full rehab process, I feel like that's cheating, and that's just my opinion. And injuries do suck, man. I wish that he never got hurt. But with that being said, I still think that is cheating the game.
I do agree with you on that aspect of it.
I definitely think it's cheating. I agree as well. But I think there is, to Cottrell's point as well, I don't think intent should matter come punishment wise, but, I do think you get a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Like Andy Pettit, for instance, like when he got caught for HGH, it was that season when he was hurt all year and he was trying to get back in time for the playoffs. Andy Pettit's obviously not trying to bulk up to hit home runs or do the stuff that Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds and McGuire and Sosa and all those guys were doing. At the end of the day, it's still cheating, and I agree. I think he should be punished. I do think intent matters a little bit in this, though. I don't. I wish he didn't do it, and he did still break the rules. It's black and white, but I don't think he was taking it. I don't think he was down in the minors taking this, trying to bulk up. So when he comes back, he can, he's going to look like, some monster. So, but
tell us your thoughts in the comments too. Like I want to hear everyone's thoughts in the comments about Tatis. Does anybody believe him? Does anybody think that it's Major League Baseball's fault, testing's fault? I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
I think the one thing though that he kind of did, I mean, he cheated, so he has to pay the price of it. But the timing of his suspension is very unfortunate for him. If he would have got caught, 2 weeks ago, maybe he's able to play in the World Series. That'd be a huge problem for baseball in general, though. If one of the star players, he's suspended all the way through the season, most of the postseason, he's back for the playoffs, but. It's super unfortunate for him. And like Charlie said, I don't believe that was his intent to necessarily get yoked just so he could be a better baseball player. I truly think that he was trying to get back from an injury, but cheating is cheating. So to your point, Gene, I 100%, I'm okay with the suspension. I think it was well deserved, and he's got to do his time.
I always, and I'm not kidding when I say this, whenever I hear like an allegation of someone juicing, I always think the suspension's light. I really do.
You thought 80 was light?
Yeah, it's half a season, man.
Okay. I think it's light. I always think it's light. Well, I think that if you get caught with performance-enhancing drugs, and this includes football, I think football is even more of a joke. 4 weeks, 2 weeks.
6 weeks. Yeah.
Like depending on what it is, but if you get caught with a performance-enhancing drug, it should be a year, no matter what it is.
What do you think? Would you have a different opinion on it? You said, depending on what they take. If it was HGH, correct, would you think that, like, if he got 80 games for HGH, I kind of would be on the same side of you. I think for what he did, given his circumstances too. Not saying that I don't want to get into the sob story of him coming back from injury. Like that shouldn't play a part in what his suspension is. But at the same time, like I do think it's very different than him using HGH because he's not the best player in the league anymore, and he's trying to get back to that caliber, things like that.
I want to answer Chris Charlton's question real quick.
Good,
he said, "What is worse, a player trying hard, cheating to get back?" Or an owner not spending money on his team and never trying to win. not one, or tank 2 seasons. I'm talking like the Pirates. My first thought was the Reds and like teams of that nature. I don't think they're two in the same, Chris. I don't think they're one's worse than the other. I think that franchises like the Cincinnati Reds, the Oakland Athletics, should be forced to sell their teams. I really believe that. I think that they do a disservice to baseball. I think there needs to be a floor of $100 million for every MLB payroll, and you need to hit that floor. To respond to Cottrell's question, and then Bill, you can hit both of them. I believe when I think of lighter suspensions, I think like anxiety medication. I think like ADHD medication. Things that are not going to help you get bigger. They might help you concentrate more, but like I know they're real disorders. Like when you're taking a performance enhancing drug to make your just make your strength more, that to me is cheating. That's cheating. Whereas I feel like if you're doing something like Ritalin or Adderall, things that could be prescribed to you because you have serious issues of anxiety or ADHD, I think if you want to ban them, that's fine. But I think the suspension should be lighter, in my opinion. Bill?
I mean, to answer Chris's thing, I think you hit that spot on. The only thing I'll slightly disagree, I wouldn't throw Oakland into that group because Oakland does draft well. They do make the playoffs, every couple of years. They just can't, I mean, we've all seen the movie Moneyball. They can't afford to re-sign those guys and keep them. They do put competitive teams on the field, though. And they're always restocking draft picks when they trade the guys away, so forth and so on. That's a well-run team. It's just a market where they can't, go out and spend $40 million a year on a guy. However, on the other hand, the Cincinnati Reds, what they're doing right now, Pittsburgh Pirates have been the same for a decade now. Those type of things I agree with. I find it very hard to believe you don't have somebody somewhere, maybe not to Steve Cohen's level, but somebody that would come in there and be willing to spend money and make Pittsburgh a winner. Me and Gene obviously, don't like Pittsburgh, but that being said, it's a great sports city. When the Penguins are good, obviously the Steelers have one of the best fan bases in the entire NFL. If the Pirates were good, people will show up. They have the nicest stadium in baseball. And I mean that. I've been there. It's been number one, I think, 4 or 5 years in a row. The stadium is gorgeous. You put a winning product on the field, people will show up and watch Pittsburgh Pirates. So I agree with Gene on that. I mean, if you're literally owning a team just to make $100 million a year and put it in your portfolio, MLB needs to get more aggressive owners in the game. There's tons of celebrities and other millionaires and billionaires that are trying to get into professional sports. We see these ownership groups across the NFL. We've seen it in basketball already with Jay-Z and other people like that. There's people out there that want to own franchises. It's one of the most valuable assets you can have. We've talked about it before. As bad as Cincinnati is run, as bad as Pittsburgh is run, they make profits every year. Don't tell me you can't get an exciting owner to take up buy the Pittsburgh Pirates and dump some money into that organization. So that I agree wholeheartedly with Gene. I also agree. They've upped the suspensions from what it was originally put in the CBA. Now you get 80 right off the bat, no matter what. I would love if it was HGH or some kind of actually like anabolic steroids, a mass building steroid. I would be fine if they just gave him a year right off the bat. But it's getting tougher and tougher, and that's always debated back and forth when they redo the CBA. So it's going in the right direction. So I really don't have that much of a problem with it. Again, 80 games. I mean, it's half a season. So I mean, it's right off the bat. He's not going to play the last 40 regular season games. He's out for all the playoffs if they make it, and he's going to miss a big opening chunk of next year already. So I think the lessons learned, and I hope this is a kid that we never see on this list again, because at the end of the day, even if you're not a Padres fan, if you're a baseball fan, he's a big star. I mean, he's a big name in the game. He's one of the most marketable players in the game, and he's really good. And I think for all intents and purposes outside of this, I think he's a very good kid. You haven't heard his name for anything else negative in regards to anything other than this. He goes back home. He's very good to his mom. He bought his mom that huge house last year. It was a big thing. So I really hope this is just a slip up. And, like I said, 10, 12, 15 years from now, we don't have to talk about this ever again.
Gene, I did want to add on to your question about, well, not question, but your statement about, teams being forced to sell and things like that. I would say that normally I'm 100% on board with you after seeing how, of course I'm a fan of a team that doesn't spend money. So our payroll is always low. After seeing how successful they were this season, I do think that if they had $100 million payroll, if that was their floor, they'd be a top 10 team in baseball right now. They're just a middle of the road team. They may make the playoffs. They probably won't. It depends on what Chicago does, essentially. But if they had that floor, they'd be more competitive. But I can also see teams, if you do the things well, like you draft well and you have that right farm system, you can get away with spending less money and still being successful after, you get those guys.
Less than the Yankees, yes than the Dodgers. Yeah, that's fine. I get that. But $40 million is a joke.
No, yeah. I mean, I look, like I said, I agree with that portion of it. But if you do it the right way, I'm always going back and forth with it, because when it's successful for teams, I don't want to say, oh, you guys have to spend $100 million, when in reality, they might be, World Series contenders if they only spend $80 million. Now the Guardians, they had been consistently, in the playoffs for 5-6 years. They didn't want to spend the money, and now they're back with these prospects that can actually play, and they're still above 500 and fighting to win their division.
Then pay the prospects more money, Cottrell. If they're $80 million and they're a World Series contender, give them all $1 million bonus for the top 20 players on the team. $100 million, if they're a playoff team, that's not breaking their bank at all. They're making tons of money. They're going to make tons of money if they're a playoff team. They're at $100 million. I don't agree with that. Chris Charlton said Vegas A's coming soon. I'll take it. And last thing before we move on to the Divas, Bill, I don't agree with you when you say Oakland is not a market where they can make money, where they could a profitable market where they can spend money. I don't agree with that. I think that any city that you put a winner in, people will show up. But it has to be a consistent winner. Like the Marlins in 97 and 03, people packed that place. They sold out that entire playoff run. But what ends up happening is when you sell all their favorite players, the fans just like, I don't need it. Screw this. I don't need this bull crap. And they go away.
But Oakland's the same way, dude. When you see Oakland in the playoffs, that place is sold out. You can't get in there. It's packed. They're not going to be a team and they don't have a market, dude. They're in Oakland. We're going to talk about it shortly with another team that moved across the bridge. They've been trying to get a new stadium there to get out of the Coliseum for over a decade now, dude. And they can't. The city doesn't want to give them any money. There's no money there. So they said they're going to fund the whole thing, but they want to do other things. And the city's like, well, we're not letting you do that. So they're looking to move now. That's why Chris's comment is spot on. That's probably where they're going to go. It's to some degree it takes two to tango. If you're getting, when you have a team like they did 2 years ago and they made the playoffs, or they were in contention the whole time, and you're still only getting 10,000 fans because a lot of people don't want to go to that stadium, that affects things. If they had a stadium where they were selling 44,000 tickets every night, yeah, then the revenue's up. I mean, I think, you've seen it in the past. I think they will make a winner out of that team. Organizationally, that team is run really well. That's all I'm saying. They draft very well. When they trade people, they get very good prospects back. That's why they're never really bad. You don't see Oakland being like, Cincinnati or like Pittsburgh, for 5 years in a row. You don't see that.
And that bothers me too. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh have two of the top 5 nicest stadiums in all baseball. They just do. Cincinnati is beautiful, man. Yeah, their stadium is beautiful. But let's get into Divas. Can we get into Divas? Let's get into Divas. Wide receiver list. What'd you say?
I thought Cottrell said he wanted to say something else.
Oh, I was just going to
I'm sorry,
mention
yeah,
the Rays. I mean, the Rays would be another example of, they put winning product on the field all the time. They can't consistently sell out their stadium, and they are also a team that doesn't want to spend money, but they're always competitive.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you for the poll. Let's get into Divas, man. I'm ready for Divas. Wide receiver list. This is a fun list every year. We give our top 10 projection of wide receivers. Last year's projection list, Dante was on the show, and Dante gave Cooper Kupp in the top 10. And I'm going to be honest with you. My reaction was, get out of here, bro. Cooper Kupp over Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp over all these elite receivers, and had to eat crow, man. He was absolutely correct. The only thing I'll bug Dante on is, man, if you've seen this coming, why didn't you have him one? I'm kidding. But the point being is, man, what a season he had. A guy that was on none of the three of our lists, catapulted all the way to number one receiver last year. A lot of our list looked pretty good. We had a couple duds on there. Julio Jones being on our list was a dud. So let's move on to this year's list. It looks like Cottrell is going first this week. I got the middle seat, and Bill's on the wraparound. So Cottrell starts off.
All right. So before I start, I did have a couple honorable mentions that I wanted to mention beforehand. The tough thing about this list is that there's so many great receivers. There's so many great receivers, and you can't put them all in your top 10. And I got some studs missing out, like guys that have been Pro Bowlers, all pro. Two guys that I wanted to mention, number one being Keenan Allen of the Los Angeles Chargers. Incredible receiver. He's got one of the best young quarterbacks in the league in Justin Herbert. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year. I just think 10 guys are going to have better years than what he has. Then the other guy I wanted to mention was Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is the guy that's led the league in catches before. He missed all of last season with that injury, but I think this upcoming season, he's going to have a very successful year. That's a guy who's always open, and he's got guys there to take off some of the attention with Jarvis Landry and Chris Olave. So I think Mike Thomas has another special year as well.
Slant boy.
My number 10, though, is a guy who is talent-wise a lot higher than number 10. I just don't love his situation at the quarterback that he went to, and that's Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is going to get a lot of love in Miami, I think, off of, jet passes and screens and things like that. But I do think his production and actual air yardage is going to take a hit. Him having Tua and all the confidence that he has in him, saying he's the most accurate quarterback that he's ever played with, which is insane. But I just don't think Tua is that. I think Tua is a bottom 10 quarterback in the league, and I think Tyreek Hill's numbers are going to reflect that. So I think Tyreek Hill has still a good season. He's still top 10, but I don't think it is what we're going to be used to seeing from Tyreek Hill.
Well, I have a few honorable mentions too. A lot of guys that didn't make my list that are great receivers. Coming from the Eagles, A.J. Brown. You have a ton of talent. Jalen Waddle, who I think takes another step forward, could easily make this list. Devontae Smith, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, none of them on my list. My number 10, though, is a guy who's close to not making my list, right? It's Terry McLaurin. I have Terry McLaurin at 10 because I believe that the situation that he is in, I think he's talented. I think he could be a top 7, 8 talent guy. But I think the situation he's in, he's going to split a lot with Jahan Dotson. I think Jahan Dotson is a dream come true for a quarterback like Carson Wentz. Coming from Clifford to Dotson thinks Wentz is Montana. When you get to take that jump from a tomato can to an NFL quarterback, Dotson's a dream come true for Carson Wentz. His bad ball catch rate is unbelievable. Scary Terry's going to take the top off. Jahan Dotson's going to make a lot of really sick catches this year. I think Washington's a very underrated team, so I have Scary Terry as my number 10.
So the two guys I would have honorable mention wise, you guys both mentioned them already. I had Jalen Waddle, and then Terry McLaurin I had right outside my 10 too. I do agree with Gene. I think Washington's an underrated team this year. I think they're kind of gliding under the radar. And that's not, just solely a Carson Wentz thing. I just think they're going to be healthy this year and a full year under Ron Rivera. The guy's a proven winner. I think they're going to have a very, very tough attitude about them. They all play hard. And I think Terry McLaurin's a very good player. And to Gene's other point, they went from Tyler Heineke and guys like that. Carson Wentz isn't Aaron Rodgers, but he's leaps and bounds better than people they've had. And Terry McLaurin and Dotson are both, like Gene said, they're acting like they're playing with Joe Montana now. There's going to be a lot of confidence there. So those were my two guys right outside the top 10 that I had that I wanted to mention. And I agree with Gene as well. I think Jalen Waddle, I almost put him on this list, honestly, because there's a decent part of me that thinks he has a better year than Tyreek Hill does. But I'll get into that later. Number 10 for me, I had a tie. I had A.J. Brown from the Eagles and Keenan Allen from the Chargers. I couldn't bring myself to cut either one of them. A.J. Brown is a monster when he's healthy. If he stays healthy here and Jalen can just consistently get him the ball, I think he has an enormous year. Keenan Allen, we already know what he is. Dude is a perfectionist when it comes to route running. He's more of a possession receiver this time in his career, but he's still going to rack up amazing numbers. So those are my two number 10s. And then number 9, I went with Mr. DeAndre Hopkins. Talent-wise, he shouldn't be 9. He should be way higher than this. He's also going to miss the first 6 games of the season, so that's going to dent his production immensely. If he was playing all 17 this year, obviously he'd be probably my top 5. The only reason I have him down here is simply because of the suspension for the substance abuse or PEDs. I forget which one it was, but that's the only reason he's number 9. He's going to miss 6 games. His numbers just strictly aren't going to be as good as everybody above him on this list.
I mean, I think it's crazy to have him even on the list missing 6 games. You must have him like super talented for those 11 that he plays. So that's wild. You want to talk about a really good receiver. If he makes the top 10 list playing 11 games, that's fire. My number 9 is the Cheetah, Tyreek Hill. I have Tyreek Hill low on this list, just like Cottrell does. Talent-wise, he's probably top 5 or 6. With that being said, he went to a very bad situation. You're talking about Tua has a better connection right now with Jalen Waddle. I understand that. I actually think Waddle has more receptions than Tyreek Hill this year. I think Tyreek Hill will take the top off the defense, a couple gadget plays. They'll make use of that $30 million and use him in a lot of different ways. That's why I have him number 9. But I think his quarterback's going to struggle getting him the football, which is why I can't put him ahead of any of the guys I have above him. Cottrell?
Again, my number 9 is a guy who was super, super talented. He was one of the best receivers number-wise last year. Honestly, numbers-wise, he finished number 2. I think his usage is going to go down a little bit with the new structure in his contract. And I also think that his teammate, Brandon Ayuk, is going to take a huge jump this year with Trey Lance being their quarterback. My number 9 is Deebo Samuel. I don't see him getting 1,400 yards again in the air, and I don't see him playing as many running backs, especially with those new incentives in his contract. And he made it very publicly known that he doesn't want to be used as a running back this year as much anymore. So I do think his numbers take a little bit of a hit, but Deebo Samuel is a guy that's too talented to not have on your list. And I do think with Trey Lance being his quarterback, he will get more. He'll get more opportunity in the air and not just behind the line of scrimmage and things like that. But I think Ayuk's going to take some targets away from him, and I think that lands him at the 9 spot. My number 8, it's a guy that I'm sure neither one of you have on your list. He's got a new quarterback in town, Russell Wilson, and numbers-wise last year, Jerry Jeudy was the most open receiver in the NFL. And I think that's going to be huge for Jerry Jeudy and what his development is this upcoming year. When Russell Wilson was with Seattle, we know DK, the threat that DK is, but I'd say Russell Wilson's favorite target was Tyler Lockett. And that's because Tyler Lockett created space, and he was that safety blanket for a quarterback like Russell Wilson. And I think Jerry Jeudy's going to fill in that role very well. And especially with Tim Patrick going down in injury, I think he's going to have a ton of receptions this year. And I fully expect Jerry Jeudy to make the Pro Bowl this upcoming year.
Okay, Jerry Jeudy, number 8. Maybe that's this year's Cooper Kupp. Guy's not on any of our lists but yours. So that would be huge. Cortland Sutton would make an argument for that to not be the best receiver on his team. I happen to agree with you, though. I think Jerry Jeudy is the number one receiver in Denver. My number 8 is Deebo Samuel. So me and you have him very close to each other. I think Deebo is still just a little bit better than Tyreek Hill, a little bit better than Terry McLaurin. I think his usage obviously goes down a ton with Trey Lance at quarterback. I think Ayuk gets used more. I think Trey Lance uses his legs more. And I think every quarterback's best friend is a good running game and a safety blanket in the tight end position, which is why I had George Kittle so high. It's my number 8, Deebo Samuel.
Number 8 for me, I have one of my low-key favorite players in the league, Mike Evans from Tampa Bay. Dude is the first guy, I think it's to have the first 6 seasons over 1,000 yards. Dude, just a monster. He's a huge red zone target for Tom Brady. I think the very beginning of the year, I think he is going to probably start out the year very hot until Godwin is up to full speed. I just don't know if he's going to have the share, the target share that he had before. They already signed Russell Gage. We already know about them bringing Julio in. Tom loves to throw to his tight ends, even when it's not Gronk. I still think he's 1,000-yard year. I still think he puts in double-digit touchdowns. I just don't think he has the monster year that he had last year. I think he takes a slight dip. It's the only reason I have him number 8. Number 7, I have the guy that you two just both talked about, Deebo Samuel. Same situation. I think he's a great year. I do agree with Cottrell. I don't think they're going to run him as much as they did last year. I think he's going to lose a little bit of those numbers on the running side of the game with touchdowns and touches. I think they're going to try to preserve him a little bit. We've already heard all the rumors out of camp, how much of a connection that Lance has with Ayuk. And I think he's going to have a bounce back season as well. So I think, again, I don't think Deebo isn't a top 5 talent by any means. I think he is. I just think I think his numbers just take a little bit of a dip this year after his coming out party last year.
My number 7 is CeeDee Lamb for the Dallas Cowboys. I think there's nobody else there. I think CeeDee is going to get a ton of targets, a ton of balls. I think he'll take another step forward. I think he's ultra talented. The guy is an absolute magician at catching the ball, catches some ridiculously tough passes. He's going to be force-fed the ball a lot. Dallas wants to throw the ball. I think their defense isn't that great, so I think they'll be coming from behind. And I think that CeeDee Lamb has a great year for the Dallas Cowboys.
Gene, I'm starting to see a lot of similarities in our list. I'm curious to see where they land at when it's all said and done. My number 7 is also CeeDee Lamb. All the points you just gave, he's in a system where he's got a pass-happy quarterback in Dak Prescott. Kellen Moore loves to throw the ball all over the yard. And I really think that, especially with Michael Gallup being out, the only other true weapon in that passing game is Dalton Schultz. So I think CeeDee Lamb's poised to have a humongous year in the passing game. My number 6, a guy
I'm interested if this. Go ahead. Yes, I was seeing if they're the same 6. I feel like we're going to have it.
My number 6 is the same guy Bill just mentioned in Mike Evans. I think he's going to have a ton of target share in Tampa Bay. He mentioned Russell Gage and Julio being there. Russell Gage has already got a nagging injury, and if Julio is what he was last year, of course I think he's going to be a little bit healthier, but I just don't think Julio is that elite talent anymore. Granted, it'll take some attention away from the defense, but I think Mike Evans is going to be Tom Brady's best friend, and they already have that connection from having the past 2 seasons playing together. And so Mike Evans is going to be poised to have a phenomenal year as well. So Mike Evans lands in that 6th spot for me.
My number 6 spot is Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans has a lot more production in the beginning of the season with Godwin coming back from the ACL. Julio Jones not having a full connection with Tom Brady. I think Mike Evans is going to catch a ton of touchdowns. He's going to be that red zone target. Now that Rob Gronkowski isn't there, I think almost all the red zone targets will be going to Mike Evans. So Mike Evans is my number 6, same as Cottrell.
Number 6 for me, I have Tyreek Hill. You guys already mentioned him. I definitely think he's going to go backwards this year. We've talked about it before. I think a lot of this is relative to the quarterback that he's going to play with. Cottrell already mentioned the crazy, Tua being the most accurate QB he's ever played with quote. I also think he doesn't realize all those deep balls that he got from Patrick Mahomes that were right on the money, that just he threw the ball over cornerbacks' heads because he could, they're not going to happen this year. I do agree with Gene. I think he's going to get his touches still. I think it's just a lot of it's going to be close to the line. I think some of the things he could do last year and the years prior with Patrick Mahomes, you just can't do it to it. He doesn't have the arm talent, and he's just not that type of quarterback. So again, I think Tyreek Hill still has a decent year. I think he takes a couple steps back from where he's been the last 3 or 4 years. And again, I think it's the Patrick Mahomes and Tua effect. You can pump your quarterback up all you want. Tua is just not in the same galaxy of a quarterback that Patrick Mahomes is. Number 5 for me.
I would say before you give number 5, it sounds like, and I will lose my mind if this isn't true. It sounds like we'll all have the same top 5 wide receivers. Because there's 5 guys on this list that have to be on the list, and if they have to be in your top 5 at this point if they're not set already. Agreed. I think we'll all have the same top 5. Geg.
I'm going to my number 5. I'm going to start again. This is another guy that I love to watch play football. Stefon Diggs of Buffalo. He's been hugely instrumental in making Josh Allen what he is. Josh Allen. Everything started to click for Josh Allen. His numbers went through the roof when he got Stefon Diggs. He got a true number 1. They are just about as good a teammates and have a connection as you can have between a quarterback and a wide receiver. I think he has another great year. I think there's an outside chance with as much as Buffalo throws the ball because they hate running the ball that he could end up even higher than this. But I'm going to have him for number 5 just because I strictly think the 4 guys I had ahead of him are just going to have absolutely monster years. And I will say this. I mean, what me and Gene talked about it last night, not our order, but so far going through these lists, the top 4 in this category for wide receivers was the most trouble I had placing people. Top 4 for me was tough.
Well, I get it. My number 5, Stefon Diggs also. Stefon Diggs is my 5, and it has nothing to do with Stefon Diggs, nothing to do with Josh Allen, has everything to do with cold weather and the fact that Gabe Davis is going to emerge this year. If you watched in the playoffs last year, Gabe Davis had 4 touchdowns in that Kansas City game. I think that the connection between Josh Allen and Gabe Davis is growing. I think Bill's taking nice selfies right now, and it looks awesome. But with that being said,
I'll take a selfie.
Stefon Diggs, I think you were taking a selfie. It looked like a selfie.
Definitely not a selfie.
But Stefon Diggs is going to have a great year. I just feel like in Buffalo, there's games like that game versus New England when it's 14 degrees. They play New England. They play at home in Buffalo, very cold arenas. I feel like it's very tough to throw the football sometimes. And with that being said, Stefon Diggs will have a little bit less stats than the 4 people above him.
I agree with everything both you guys just said. My number 5 is also Stefon Diggs. I mean, you guys hit everything on the head. The one thing that I did want to kind of add in there is that I think, we're not talking about running backs, and this guy is not going to be one of my top 10, but I think James Cook is going to have an impact with that Buffalo Bills team. And I do think, in a sense, I think that takes away a little bit from Stefon. Obviously, we still think he's a top 10. He's going to be top 5 receiver next year, but I think the little bit that James Cook brings to the mix, you also mentioned Gabe Davis already. Those guys they're just going to take touches away. And I think the 4 guys that we have ahead, I would assume that we all have the same 4. I think all 4 of those guys have the potential to have, 1,800 yards this year. I think they all have the potential to win the Triple Crown this year. With that being said, my number 4 is a guy who did win the Triple Crown last year, and that's Cooper Kupp. You guys might be surprised to see Cooper Kupp that low, especially coming off of the season that he just had. But you got to factor in some things. His offensive coordinator is now the head coach in Minnesota. Matt Stafford now has a true number 2 receiver in not Robert Woods, Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson came from Chicago, and Allen Robinson is going to be open. So I think the combination of both those things is going to take some love away from Cooper Kupp. I do still think he's going to be Matt Stafford's favorite target, but I don't think we see the crazy Triple Crown kind of season that we saw last year from Cooper Kupp. So that's why he lands at the 4 spot for me.
I love that you mentioned Allen Robinson. My number 4 is Cooper Kupp also. Allen Robinson's a huge addition to that team. And let me just kind of break this down a little bit more for you. Blaine Gabbert, Mitchell Trubisky, Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, Justin Fields. They're the 5 quarterbacks that have thrown the ball to Allen Robinson. His last 5 quarterbacks, at least. I'm sure Gardner Minshew probably had a pass in there somewhere. But the point being is, Allen Robinson finally has a quarterback that can throw him the football. I think he is one of the most underrated talents. I wanted the Eagles to sign him so badly. I think last year when he seen the writing on the wall, everything going on with Matt Nagy, he's like, man, this injury is a little much. I think this is one of those guys where I was talking about last week that, business decision. In LA, on that carpet, with a quarterback that loves to sling the ball, I think Cooper Kupp sees a ton of double teams this year, and that allows Allen Robinson to get off and get some great production over in LA. Let me add to the fact that Cooper Kupp is going to still eclipse 100 receptions. He's going to still eclipse 1,500 yards. The top 3 guys, though, have an ability to go for 2,000 maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. But Cooper Kupp's my number 4.
I'm going to alter slightly here. Number 4 for me, I have Justin Jefferson from Minnesota. I said it, I said it before. The top 4 I struggled with. I agree with both your sentiments that I think Cooper Kupp takes a little bit of a step backwards this year. I just don't think he steps back to 4. I think he has another great year. I think, Jefferson, to Gene's point, though, I mean, I could easily have egg on my face with this by the 8th week of the season. I think Adam Thielen being healthy all year will slightly diminish him, but between these top 4 guys, you really, really are splitting hairs. It's not even like 1 through 4. It's kind of 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. That's how good all 4 of these guys are. I wouldn't even say the gap to Diggs is that far either. But the kid's explosive. Me and Gene have talked about it numerous times how bad, we should have taken him and not freaking
Rager.
But
you didn't want to have a Rager bomb?
No. But he's Mr. Excitement, man. I mean, he's just like the 3 guys ahead of him. He can go from, you guys being 3rd and 4 to 10 seconds later, you got 6 points on the board. Kid can run any route. Crazy thing is about him, he's super wide open all the time, and he doesn't have, honestly, he doesn't have elite speed. He really doesn't. He's a great route runner. He's got great hands. And for a young kid, I think what's really impressive about him is he has a great feel for the position of wide receiver to football. He always finds, creases and soft spots and zones. He can beat man coverage easily when he wants to. He can do everything. Again, these top 4 guys are just different. So number 3 for me, I have Cooper Kupp. I think Allen Robinson is going to pretty much take the spot that OBJ had last year. He's going to do things a little different. He's not exactly the same type of receiver as OBJ is, but it's also going to allow Cooper Kupp to do what he did last year. It's going to free him up, work out of the slot a lot, run short underneath stuff. And then Cooper Kupp will pop you for a big one too if you're too laxed on him as well. We already know how much Matt Stafford loves him. To Gene's point, playing on that carpet at least 8 games a year with his quick and if you've seen any of the videos from training camp or anything, his foot speed is insane. He's the whole package. Last year was the super official, hello party to everybody in the NFL. I think he has another great year. I think he steps back a little bit, just a tad from where he was last year. And I think the 2 guys I have ahead of him just have better years.
Okay, so this was really tough for me. Extremely tough for me because I went back and forth between 3 and 1 for this player. 3, 2, or 1. My number 3 is Justin Jefferson, but I think he's a lot closer to 1 than anybody else on this list by a long shot. Like, I think he's closer to 1 than he is to 4, if you follow what I'm saying. Justin Jefferson is walking into a situation with an offensive head coach now. not Mike Zimmer, not a defensive run the football head coach. He's walking into his third year with Kirk Cousins. He looks unguardable in practice. And there's a new scheme. You're going to see him in different ways this year. Justin Jefferson has an amazing connection right now with, and the way I rank these three, and obviously it's very obvious who's 2 and 1, is connection to quarterback. And Justin Jefferson would be third on that list out of the 3 people I have left. But I think they all could go nuts this year. They all could be number 1. So Justin Jefferson's my number 3.
So my number 3 is actually a guy who I think is a better receiver than Justin Jefferson, but he's only at the 3 slot. That's his former teammate, Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase is the better LSU receiver. I've said that from the jump. But I think numbers wise, I just don't know how the two are going to compare. That's not to say I don't think Jamar Chase can have, the best season of everybody on this list, but I just think the other 2 guys are going to have a slightly better year. You talked about connection. Clearly, the connection between Burrow and Chase is it's money. They went all the way to Super Bowl from being, the year they got Burrow, they were drafting 1st overall. The year they got Chase, they were drafting 5th overall, and everyone hated the pick and wanted them to draft a lineman, and they somehow still reached the Super Bowl. So I think Jamar Chase is a guy that 100% has the ability to win the Triple Crown, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was number 1. I just don't have my projections going that way. My number 2 is a guy who I think is the best receiver in football, and I don't think that I have much argument against it in my mind. Like, I don't think I could be persuaded to not think that he's the best receiver in football, and that's Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is going to a system where he's leaving, in his words, he's leaving one Hall of Fame quarterback and going to another, and Derek Carr, his former teammate at Fresno State. I really think that connection to Derek Carr, of course, he's not Aaron Rodgers, but I think them having that connection and those guys being so tight off the field, I mean, they were roommates in college. So those guys having that connection, I think, will be very important. I just don't think he has more production than the guy I have at 1. So I got to stick him at 2, even though I think he's the best receiver in the game.
All right. So my number 2 is Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is, I think he has the better quarterback than Justin Jefferson. And I think he has the better connection to his quarterback than Justin Jefferson. That is splitting hairs. Jamar Chase is unbelievable. He's big. He's strong. He's fast. He can do everything on the football field. And he has a quarterback that's going to force feed him the ball, even when he's not open. Joe Burrow says it perfectly. Just throw it down there, Jamar somewhere. That is the way they play football. It reminds me very much of a young Matt Stafford and Calvin Johnson. I know that's very high praise, but Jamar Chase is that type of special. So he's my number 2, Jamar Chase.
Number 2 for me is Jamar Chase as well. I think Gene hit on a lot of the great points. I'll take Joe Burrow over Kirk Cousins, obviously, and Derek Carr for that fact. I said this on the show last year, and he kind of proved me right. And I believe we all said that the right pick was Chase. Did we not? Or did somebody say they should have took Lion?
I was the only one that said Chase was the right pick.
No, I definitely did.
No, go back and listen to that draft show.
Okay, I will. I'll pull that. I'll put it up because I said Chase from the get-go.
I picked Chase at 5.
But I'll say exactly what I said last year, and I don't have to say much more after that. He is a generational talent. He's a generational type wide receiver. He is in the same mold as a young Julio, as a young DeAndre Hopkins. He has size, he has speed, he has hands. He's explosive. You can't cover him. Kind of like Gene said, Joe Burrow doesn't really worry about the technicality of a lot of things. If he sees him have a little bit of space, he just throws it, and he knows he's going to catch it. He had a little bit of the drops first 2, maybe 3 weeks last year, and he got comfortable, got rid of the jitters.
Preseason.
He had a couple of bad ones the first 2 weeks. But then he just took off, and that was the end of it after that. He had a great year. I think he steps up and I think he's even better this year. And I'll make the bold prediction before I reveal my number 1, even though everybody knows who it is. I think this is the last year that he's number 2 on this list. I think next year he's number 1. Number 1 this year still is Devontae Adams. Cottrell already said it. He's the best wide receiver in the game. I think he's going to a quarterback that he does already have a connection with. And listen, we've said it on this show as well. Derek Carr is not Aaron Rodgers by any means. Don't get me wrong, but Derek Carr universally is underrated. Derek Carr is a very good quarterback, and he finally has a true number one. I don't think Davante Adams' numbers are going to slip that much, to be honest. I think they're going to force feed him the ball. He's going to get tons of red zone looks. They're going to utilize him as much as they can. He's the best route runner in the game, probably. It's debatable, but he's up in that category. He can run everything on the tree. He doesn't drop the ball either. So I think he has another great year. I don't think the switch of scenery is going to affect him as much as people think it is. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to slip more than Davante Adams is. I
think that's kind of.
I think
that's obvious.
But for me, Davante Adams, number one this year, by a very, very slim margin.
My number one's Davante Adams also, because I really feel like he has a point to prove. I feel like that Davante Adams has been telling himself the entire offseason that he's a product of Aaron Rodgers, and he's not. The guy can run everything. He is a physical receiver that can get you a first down. You could throw him a jump ball deep, and he can catch that. You can throw him a go route, and he's 3 yards behind the defender. He runs out routes. He runs slants. Davante Adams can do it all, and the connection he has with his college quarterback, Derek Carr, I think that those two guys are salivating at the opportunity to play together. I think the Las Vegas Raiders offense is explosive this year. I think Davante Adams, guys, he might mess around and score 20 touchdowns. Guy might mess around and score 20 touchdowns this year. That's a wild high number, right? But I look at that like the connection with Donovan McNabb and T.O. their first year in 2004. I look at that type of connection between Davante Adams and Derek Carr. So that's my number one.
My number one is a guy you both have already mentioned, and that is Jay Jettis. Give me Justin Jefferson to have the most productive year of all the wideouts in football. I think Justin Jefferson, he has that chemistry with Kirk Cousins already, and now he has a pass-happy OC with Kevin O'Connell coming from the Rams. And you saw what Cooper Kupp did when he was in that offense, and now Justin Jefferson is going to be in that offense. And I think we're going to see a lot of targets go to Justin Jefferson, not only because of scheme, but also because he's just going to always be open. We talked about his route running. He's a top 5 route runner in the league. And I think with them being in that system, everything that you're hearing from Vikings camp is that they are very pass happy. Dalvin Cook's is getting more reps at receiver and getting split out, so I think they're going to pass the ball a ton. And, you're going to double team Justin Jefferson. But I think in Justin Jefferson's case, being in such a pass-happy offense, it is great when you can have a guy like Adam Thielen on the other side of you, because he's going to garner attention as well. And I truly think Justin Jefferson is going to be a nice race for that 2,000-yard mark this upcoming season. I think he just misses it. I think he goes like 1890, right around there. But I think Jay Jettis is primed to have the best season in football at the receiver position.
Control, I don't want to argue with that one bit. I think that, like I said, I think Justin Jefferson, when I put him at 3, is closer to 1 than he is to 4. I think any one of these 3 can go for 2,000 yards this year. They can have unbelievable years. You got to understand, 17 games. It's an extra game. These guys have massive connections with their quarterback. All have things going for them, all in the prime of their career. Davante Adams has a year to prove it. Going to a warmer situation. How do you think his legs are going to feel later on in the season? Not playing in frigid, cold Lambeau Field and playing in sunny, hot Las Vegas.
I will say, though, on the flip side of that, he's going to have a whole bunch of better DBs to play with in division going to that AFC. The AFC West is loaded, but Devontae's too talented. I don't think it matters too much who's in front of him, but he's going to have to bring his boots to work every week, and I fully expect him to.
All right, well, let me give you a counterpoint to that. Did he not go against the best DB in football and practice every single day when he went against Jair Alexander? And I get it.
No.
He might be second or third on your list. Okay, that's fine. Did he not go against a top 3 corner?
He did,
Football
100%.
and practice every single day?
100%. Iron sharpens iron.
If anyone's prepared for that, exactly. Iron sharpens iron. And so I kind of want to talk about this for a second. If you're not watching Hard Knocks, watch it. The battles
incredible.
between Penei Sewell and Aiden Hutchinson, iron sharpens iron. Oh, my Lord. 2 episodes, and they've been great. First episode was way better than the second, but both episodes have been incredible. Watch that show.
And I want to
Rodrigo.
I want to add on to that even a little bit. I will say, coming out, and he hasn't played an NFL snap yet. Coming out, I was down on Aiden, not because I didn't think he was a special player. I didn't think I would have took him at number 2 because I think he's a high motor guy, and I don't think the skill says number 2. But the way he works, talent wise, I still don't think I would have took a number 2. But the way he works, I'm behind that pick. And although he's a Michigan alum, I'm rooting for him to be successful. I love the way he approaches the game, and I think he's going to be good because he's going to put in that work. But like I said, talent wise, I don't think it's there. But I think he's going to work, and he's going to be around because of that high motor that he has. I underestimated that.
And there's not many tackles he's going to go against every week that are better than Penei. So I'm just being clear. He's going to work. He gets to work against that every week.
Yep.
I love Hard Knocks this year, man. I can't wait to get into it. Who's got your favorite list? Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. However, we'll post it on the Facebook. Put the comments up there. But and by the way, Keith, DJ Khaled, we the best. Who we? I'll do it for just for you. I'll make people laugh.
Just want to get one show without Gene freaking singing.
I'm singing every show, baby. Every show. It's happening. Next week, I might open with a monologue. I might write something original.
Please don't. It'll be worse than the game's diss track.
The game's diss track was awful. That was 10 minutes. I will never get back. If you haven't heard it, don't listen to it. It's terrible. Let's get into Mount Rushmores.
Just wait for M.
I hope so. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate it. He said Gene's list for sure.
Honestly, it's so bad. I don't know if he even responds.
I don't know if I would. Why give him the attention he's begging for? But Mount Rushmores, we got San Francisco. Thank you, Eric Rosenblum. San Francisco versus San Diego. San Francisco versus San Diego. Rivals in life. Rivals just miles away from each other. On the same coast of the same state, of the sunny state of California. San Francisco is a heavy hitter, though. I don't know if we have a better Mount Rushmore than San Francisco. I'll give it away now. San Fran's my dark horse to win it all.
I don't even know how dark that is.
This Mount Rushmore is elite. It could be better than New York's, Boston's, Philadelphia's. It is elite. So let's unveil the San Francisco Mount Rushmore.
Veal Parmesan, baby.
Starting at the point guard. 4-time NBA champion. The greatest shooter to ever play the game of basketball. Handles like no other. Stephen Curry. Thoughts on Curry, guys? And he might be 4th on this list. He might be the 4th best athlete on this list.
Well deserved. I mean, what he's done for the game and the way he's revolutionized it. I mean, first unanimous MVP, obviously the best shooter of all time. He's got 4 championships and he's still playing. I mean, he 100% deserves to be on this list. And I think when his career is over, we are all of the mindset that he has the potential to go down as the best point guard in NBA history. And that's high praise, but it's very much in reach for him. So definitely deserves to be here.
No, I agree. I mean, it's, I think if you would have told me 10 years ago we'd be having this discussion, I think like pretty much everybody else, I would have told you were crazy. And that's where we're at now. I mean, we're 4 championships later. He's still really not super old, to be honest. He owns every goddamn record there is already. And he's still playing. He's putting up numbers right now that are probably never going to be touched. And it's cool to be able to sit here and say you watched it. I'm always of the mindset of being somebody who, likes the history. I like to watch history. I like to watch records get broken. I love that stuff. Be able to watch him play for the last 10 years is honestly, it's been exciting. It's been a blessing. We've talked about it before where I could come over from softball, and if Golden State's on, I'll watch him. I just love watching him play. He's one of those guys, and that's one of those teams that if they're on, sign me up. I'll watch it. It's
next.
It's just crazy. It's crazy to say all this, and because the other 3 guys on this list are done. I mean, we're kind of still at an incomplete with him, which is just wild. I mean, I don't know what it all looks like when it's all said and done. He gets another ring, and it starts getting real interesting.
The next one on the list is the GOAT before there was a GOAT. Joe Montana, 4-0 in Super Bowls. Guy was unbelievable. And, it's kind of weird because I kind of want to pair these two together. The second greatest quarterback of all time and the greatest wide receiver ever in Jerry Rice. And I'm going to put them right together right here. I'm going to talk about them both together. Montana to Rice. There was nothing that they couldn't do on a football field. Those guys were just elite. They dominated the late 80s. The San Francisco 49ers they were America's team before the Cowboys. Ugh, yuck. But you're talking about the second greatest quarterback ever, and possibly, I'm not kidding if you said this, who is the greatest NFL player ever? One singular player. Jerry Rice is in that discussion. If it's not Jerry, then who? You have 2 of the most elite players in the game, Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. They're 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Any thoughts,
100%.
gentlemen?
100%. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. You talk about like that connection. It's funny, I feel like with Mount Rushmores like this, typically it's kind of one or the other. These guys are so great that they had to both be on here. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that alone speaks to how important they are. You can't mention the quarterback position without Joe Montana, and of course, you can't mention the wide receiver position without Jerry Rice. I mean, these guys were the standard. Of course, Tom has taken over the number 1 spot, but like you said, 4-0 Super Bowl, and they're just that talented, and they were that special. I mean, that was a dynasty that they had. Let's call it what it is.
I'm going to take it a step further here when I say this. All you kids at home that mention Randy Moss's name in the same breath as Jerry Rice, you're doing a disservice to the game. You need to watch more football because Jerry Rice did everything on a football field. He's elite in every sense of the word. And Shally, any comments on this?
No, I agree. I mean, Jerry Rice was definitely the better all-around wide receiver. Randy Moss had certain athletic gifts that I would say Jerry Rice didn't. But if you want to look at who Jerry Rice is, Google his workout regimen and what he did to stay in shape when he was in his prime. He was way ahead of his time. He would practice all day and then go run stairs for an hour. He was one of the first guys to really utilize Jug's machine and constantly catching 1,000 footballs a day. The dude he's the first guy with his athleticism, his work ethic, and then I'll transfer onto the field. And there was times, man, he made wide receiver look effortless. He was that good. He was that smooth. He made it look like he wasn't trying. He was just that good. He was that far ahead of everybody else.
And last but not least on this list, now everyone has an opinion on this. To me, the greatest hitter of all time was Ted Williams. But the greatest baseball player to ever play the game of baseball, to ever walk onto the diamond, is to say, hey, kid, Willie Mays. Willie Mays is, in my opinion, he did it all. Center field, over 600 home runs. This guy is one of a kind. So you have the greatest baseball player ever, the greatest shooter ever, the greatest wide receiver ever, and possibly the greatest overall football player ever. and the second best quarterback to ever play the game. It's a very tough list to beat.
It's really not up for debate in regards to hitter. Ted Williams is the best hitter ever. Best baseball player ever. In my opinion, if you're going to make me pick, I'm going to pick Willie Mays. We hear it now all the time with scouting reports and, Juan Soto, Trout, Tatis. You hear the term all the time, 5-tool. Willie Mays was the first 5-tool player. He could hit for power, he could hit for average, had a great arm, was great defensively, and he could run. He had all 5 tools. He was before all of our times, even my old ass. But if you watch anything from back then, he still has the most famous catch ever in the history of baseball. That was Willie Mays. He was so gifted athletically. He did certain things on baseball fields sometimes that people thought he was showing off, and it was just plays that they couldn't fathom making, like the over shoulder the catch. People don't realize in that stadium how far that ball was hit. There were stadiums back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s where center field
500 feet
was there was I want to say it was the Polo Grounds. The way that stadium was laid out, the center field wall was 550 feet away. It was so far away that when they were done batting practice before the games, they would roll the cage out and they would just leave it in center field. They wouldn't even put it behind the wall because nobody could hit the ball that far. Willie Mays, I could call him special, and it would be doing a disservice to him. He did it all. Obviously, he did it all clean. Was a loyal guy. Played for Stanford almost his entire career, and he could just do it all. I say it all the time as a baseball fan. I wish I was alive in the 50s and the 60s because it was just a different game back then, and it was just the players were just different. I mean, to wake up every day and watch Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle and guys like Ted Williams, guys like that play is just, it would be a dream come true for me. But he is just as special as everybody else on this list, to me, in my opinion, in my eyes.
Control?
Yeah, I mean, you guys both mentioned how special he was. The thing is that to be a player like Willie Mays and for your achievements to still hold up now in today's game, considering how much the game has changed, I'd say there's a handful of guys that you can do that for, and Willie Mays is 100% one of those guys. We talk about it in different sports as well. They did this in that generation or that generation, regardless. Willie Mays, it doesn't matter. We mentioned Ted Williams already when we talked about Boston. It doesn't matter. Look at what they did in their numbers. You can stack those up against literally anybody back then, today, and it's still incredible. Having an average as high as you did when you also hit for over 600 home runs, it's just not seen. And then you add on to that you're great at your position defensively in center field. It's just unheard of. So you guys calling him the best baseball player ever, I'm not going to argue that with you at all. You guys would be more up on that than me. Based on everything that I know, I probably would still give the nod to Ted Williams just because the numbers that he had were just incredible. Plus, given the fact that he didn't play, for the prime of his career for a couple years, but Willie Mays being up there, I'm not gonna argue with you guys at all with that.
With that being said, I just wanted to, I want to give San Diego its respect. We're going to move into San Diego. But this is going to be a landslide. This is going to be a landslide. I don't think it's going to be close. So let's introduce the San Diego Mount Rushmore. All right, so one of the best pure hitters, Tony Gwynn. I'm going to start there.
Yeah, Tony Gwynn, he's the last person to really, really threaten Ted Williams' record. He went into September a couple times over 390, and he had a run at it. He was another one. He's one of those guys, if you've ever seen, some of those crazy baseball memes, he's on a couple of them, having a gazillion career bats, and I think he he's got one where it was like he never, I think in like 3,000 some games, he never struck out more than once in any game. Like just crazy stuff, man. He was on another level when it came just to hitting. Not a power guy by any means, but if Tony Gwynn, he was so good. You look at guys who hit for average now. If Tony Gwynn hit 330 in a year, it was a down year, like a bad year, and he would tell you that. He was constantly in the 340s, the 350s, the 360s. Like I said, I know a couple times he went into, I think the one year he went into like the final week and he was like 392. And if he would have had a good week, he could have got there. And he did. And I think he finished that year hitting like 386 or something. But dude was just could just rake. I mean, he just got in the box and, he was his approach to the plate and, he was one of the first guys too that really utilized watching replays and watching film of pitchers. He concentrated. He knew what guys were going to throw in certain counts. He was ahead of his time in that, but he was a good guy too. I mean, stayed in San Diego the whole time, and never left. And he's one of those. Unfortunately, passed away. I would say probably about 10 years ago at this point already. Actually, Hall of Famer, great hitter, great guy. Was always a big fan of him too. He was in like that, like Gene, you'll probably remember this. He was always like, he was one of those guys that always played and always smiled. Him and like, I remember him and like, I put like Kirby Puckett in the same group. Like you just watch the guys and you were like, they just love playing and they're good at it. And he was just a good dude. Loyal to San Diego the whole time. And was a college coach for a while afterwards, but I think he passed away. I want to say lip cancer or something like that from chewing all the time, but Tony Gwynn.
I'm going to run through the next three, and then you guys can make comments on all three of them. One of them is LaDainian Tomlinson. He's the second one. I think he has the greatest single year for running back ever in 2006. So let me just break it down for you real quick. His 2006 included NFL MVP, Walter Payton, NFL Man of the Year, first team All-Pro, obviously, the Burt Bell Award for best running back, led the NFL in rushing yards, led the NFL in rushing touchdowns, led the NFL in scoring. For all that to happen in 1 year, it's absolutely absurd. LaDainian Tomlinson, his prime of his career was unstoppable. Then you have his teammate, counterpart, Junior Seau. You want to talk about some of the best middle linebackers ever? You can't mention great linebackers without mentioning Junior Seau. The guy had instincts for the ball, great against the run, great against the pass. One of the all-time best linebackers ever to play the game. He's got to be top 5. And then, what the greatest left turn guy? He turns left multiple times. Jimmy Johnson. He's good at going around that track, turning left. So that would be the rest of the San Diego Mount Rushmore. Your thoughts on those three?
I mean, my immediate thought is I'm not even a NASCAR guy, and I'm gonna give him some more respect than that. I mean, the guy is, for my money, he's the best person to ever sit behind the wheel of a vehicle. I give him that praise. You say what you want. I watched the man win 5 straight cups, and I wasn't even a fan of the sport. And so seeing that every year with me growing up, he's the best to ever do it in my eyes. You mentioned LT. LT is a guy who I somewhat feel bad for him being not necessarily stuck with that Chargers team, but the year they went 14-2 and they just couldn't get it done. Dane Thompson was one of the most fun running backs to watch in the league, especially growing up. Seeing him at TCU, of course, he was special, and I wanted to see him win. I wanted to see him win, and I'm upset that he couldn't get him one. And then you mentioned Junior Seau, that linebacker position, like you said, you can't mention great linebackers without mentioning Junior Seau. And I mean, he was special. It's unfortunate, what happened to him post NFL life. But as a whole, though, I do think that this San Diego Mount Rushmore is solid. I just think they ran into a well-oiled machine in San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about LT already a lot, and I'll say this: I don't think he gets enough talk or enough credit being, one of the best ever. So he's not. It's not a name you ever hear come up, and I definitely don't think he is, but I don't think people quite realize the peak that he had and the run that he went on for those 3 or 4 years. And Gene already mentioned 2006, which I agree with Gene as well. Kind of sucks you stole that from me, but it's fine. I think it's the best year running backs ever had, ever. He was one of the first one that he was in the same kind of mold as like Marshall Faulk. There's nothing that guy couldn't do. They would get him the ball on every square footage of the field. They would find a way to get him the ball. He could do everything. Junior Seau, again, top 5 or 6 middle linebacker ever. Intense as hell, man. He's same one of those guys, kind of like, you see the pictures of old, like Dick Butkus, Mike Singletary with like the huge eyeballs. Junior Seau was one of those guys. Like he'd sit there and he knew what you were doing before you were going to do it, and he knew he was going to kill you. Again, it was a shame, obviously at CT and the way his life tragically ended. One of the all-time greats. And then you have Jimmy Johnson. Not going to go as far as say he's the best driver ever. Mr. Richard Petty would like a word, but I will go this. He's in my opinion, he's the second best. He's won 7 overall titles. Cottrell already mentioned he won 5 in a row. What makes that even more impressive, within those 5 years in a row that he won, they changed the point scoring 3 different times to try to upset him, and not upset him, but try to pretty much get anybody
make it more even.
Yeah, make it more even. And every time they did, him and Chad Ganous and the Hendrick team just kept coming back better, kept coming back more consistent, and he just kept freaking winning. 5 in a row. He's racing Indy cars now. But he is, for my liking, he's better than everybody not named Richard Petty, and that includes Dale Earnhardt. He's just a better driver.
Yeah, great Jimmy Johnson. Where's Jeff Gordon on that list?
Probably 4th or 5th. Dale Earnhardt would be 3 for me, and then 4th or 5th is either Gordon or Larry Parsons.
Okay. All righty, San Diego, we got to vote. San Fran in a landslide. I got a sweep, 4-0.
Yeah, I don't think we have to vote.
Yeah, I think this is one of those ugly sweeps too. Like no games within 15 points. It's just like you just get it done because you have to.
Yeah, this is the matchup that ABC puts in like the crappy time slot because nobody's going to watch it because everybody knows what's going to happen. Again, I think San Diego's solid, just absolute buzzsaw. I guess we'll call it Bay Area, whatever the hell we're calling it. But
Bay Area
buzzsaw.
Bay Area buzzsaw.
I like it.
Create magic. Listen, I think they got I think they have Final Four potential.
I think they can win it all. All right, so speaking of Final Four potential, I think either team that wins the SEC could be sitting there Final Four potential, could be winning the whole thing. We're going to talk about our SEC conference preview and predictions. I'd be absolutely shocked. I would be absolutely shocked if either one of you do not have the same finals as I do. Shocked.
You talking about SEC or college football playoffs?
The SEC finals.
Oh, okay.
The SEC finals.
Oh, I know I don't.
I don't know how it's possible. You know you don't?
Yes, correct.
Oh, I get to go first.
Oh, my Lord. I can't wait to hear this.
I'm going to tell you this.
You do not have.
Nope, I sure don't.
Well, is it your East or your West pick?
Hey,
it's West.
Stay tuned.
100% wouldn't be East.
Stay tuned.
All right. So, what are we doing first? We're going East first, Dante?
Bill. Yep.
All right. So, the East. There was a couple people that I don't want to say I tried to talk myself into it, but I went deep to try to convince myself to pick somebody else. But I couldn't. Listen, at the end of the day, you got to give credit where credit's due. And for the East champ this year, I'm going to pick Georgia Bulldogs, Gene's Bulldogs, because he just absolutely abandoned ship with Penn State.
No.
No, what?
That's not accurate. I didn't abandon ship with Penn State.
You will after like week 7. It's fine. We'll just go with it for now.
No, no, I picked him to win the whole thing, so of course I'm going to root for him the whole way.
We'll see.
You did abandon ship though. You weren't a Penn State fan. You
You're
did pick
liar.
Georgia. You rolled with Georgia. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, but you definitely stopped riding with Penn
When I
State.
picked the national championship this year, when I picked the winner again this year, you will hear me abandon ship again next year. I'm not picking Penn State to win it all, so of course I'm going to root for the team I picked.
I'm just saying we stopped hearing about Penn State and their season. You know, they were what 7-1 at a point, and then it was like, oh, Penn State, and then they lost a couple games and they lost to Illinois, and it was like, oh, Penn State.
Yeah, you played us. You played us.
What are you talking about?
You played us. You try to get through the show without talking about it. You were just like, we don't want to talk about Penn State anymore. Georgia, go Bulldogs. All right. So, but listen, I think Tennessee's going to be improved this year. I gave them a good hard look. Josh Heupel has a very good offense there. A lot of people, Florida's just not there for me, and I don't think anybody else in the East is worthy of it. Listen, I will give Gene his roses here though. That defense was everything he said it was going to be last year, and then some. Might be the best ever. It's definitely one of the best we've ever seen. That being said, they're all gone. They only returned 10 starters this year. They've Stetson.
They're not all gone.
All right, relax. They got Stetson Bennett back this year, who I will give him his credit. He played better against Michigan and definitely played better against Alabama than I thought he was. They came up with a great game plan for him. Kid executed perfectly, got the monkey off his back. He's a national champ now. He's going to come to the season with full confidence. The big thing with Georgia is going to be how the defense responds, and I think we're going to get a decent look at them. They play Oregon opening week. I think it's a good stern test for them. I don't think they're going to be scared per se. I think maybe it's a close game in the third quarter, but we're going to get a pretty decent look at what they are and what they're going to be for the season. Nakobe Dean, Philadelphia Eagle. Trayvon Walker, Jacksonville. Big guy in the middle that Gene loves.
Jordan Davis.
Mr. Jordan Davis, Philadelphia Eagle. Yeah. They're all gone.
Oh, don't talk about Quay Walker.
He did try to sneak him in there. He's on that level.
Quay Walker is like the 7th, 8th best player on that defense last year.
And
we got the West, shall we?
In the West, I'm going with the same old. I know the trendy pick might be Notre Dame here, or not Notre Dame, sorry, Texas A&M. Sure as hell not going to be Notre Dame. It's going to be Texas A&M, but I'm going with Alabama. I think what he's got coming back, I think he's going to have 2 Heisman finalists on his team. That's right. I'll say it now. I'll say it again. I don't know when the last time you had 2 years in a row where you had defensive people make the Final Four. You're going to have it this year. You had Aiden Hutchinson last year. Will Anderson's going to be there this year. He's the man amongst boys doesn't even start to do it justice. He's a one-man wrecking crew. He's going to be the leader of the defense, which should still be solid. Defense is probably going to be the strength of the team. Offense, obviously, is going to be led by what's his face? Why am I forgetting Bryce Young. Defensively, also, they're going to have LSU transfer Eli Ricks that Cottrell's boys let go out of Columbus. Going to strengthen the back end of that defense. I think the big question mark for Alabama is going to be their offensive line. That being said, their schedule's a little bit tough. They got a couple difficult road trips, but the biggest game they have this year is against Texas A&M, October 5th. Texas A&M's going to Tuscaloosa. Texas A&M's got questions at the quarterback position. I don't think they're going to be ready. You got all the hubbub between Jimbo and Nick this year. That game's going to be a little personal. They can both say what they want to say, that it's over and it's buried. It's not. They're both petty as hell. That game's going to matter. And I think if Alabama wins that game, I think they run the gauntlet. I think they go to the SEC championship game undefeated. So I will take Bryce Young. I will take Will Anderson. And I will take Alabama in the West.
And you'll have Alabama winning, as you see the green check that says it. Cottrell, go ahead. Tell me someone's going to upset the Georgia Bulldogs in the East, because I know that's where you're going, because there's no way you have the gall to not have Alabama in your finals.
I think
well,
he does.
my friend,
I think he
you
does.
would be, Gene, you'd be correct. The Georgia Bulldogs, they lost a lot last year, and they to Gene's point last year, I had always said, until they beat that team, and I want to see what their offense can prove, all that stuff. It came to fruition in the championship game. Not even going to get into all that.
And he still doesn't give him credit.
They lost 9 starters on defense. I think that's huge. And I'm still not a believer in Stetson Bennett. You could talk about his play in the playoff games. I don't think he's the best quarterback on his side of the conference. And I'm going with the best quarterback on his side of the conference, and that's Anthony Richardson of the Florida Gators. I think Florida, they get the coach coming in, Billy Napier. He was incredible at Louisiana Lafayette, and I think he's going to have that team ready to go. The talent is already there. And they have the luxury of playing that Georgia team on a neutral field in Jacksonville, and I think they can get the job done. The rest of their schedule it's not like they're on the other side in the West where they have to run the gauntlet. It's not like that. And I think Florida has a great chance to win the East. And like I said, I think they got the second best quarterback in the SEC as a whole, Anthony Richardson. And like you've seen in all the other conference predictions that we've had, I've had the best quarterback and the second best quarterback in the title game, and I'm sticking with that here. And then in the West, I got the Alabama Crimson Tide. Bill mentioned a lot of them already. Bryce Young, of course, is back. Will Anderson is back. But then he also mentioned the LSU transfer in Eli Ricks. Eli Ricks is the best cornerback in the country. I want him to be a Buckeye. We didn't recruit him because everybody was scared of competition. But Eli Ricks is going to go to Alabama, and he's going to show that he is the best cornerback in the country. He's going to be that Patrick Surtain, that Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's going to be that for that Crimson Tide team. And they also got a transfer Jahmyr Gibbs in from Georgia Tech, who was going to be special at the running back spot for him. Him in that Saban offense in the same backfield as Bryce Young, I think he's going to be incredible. I still don't know what they're going to do with the receiver position, but I mean, it's Alabama. They got another 5-star kid in there somewhere. As much as I wanted to pick A&M to upset Bama, I just don't think they're there yet. The talent on that team, they're all young. They had 12 top 20. They had 12 top 50 prospects. The 2 best defensive tackles and the 2 best ends in the 2022 class both went to A&M. I just don't think those 18 and 19-year-old kids are going to be ready to dethrone a team like Bama. Although the team last year did it, with all the questions at quarterback for A&M, I just don't see it getting done. I got Bama winning the SEC and going back to the college football playoff again.
Well, for the East, I have the obvious selection of the team that should be there. By the way, you just mentioned Eli Ricks as being the best cornerback in college football. Guess what? He's not the best cornerback in his conference. That'd be Keely Ringo of the Georgia Bulldogs. Just you can shake your head all you want. Keely Ringo, the guy that had the game-winning interception off of Bryce Young, that guy's back. Don't forget about him. Don't forget about Brock Bowers, the best tight end in the country.
That I agree
Stetson
with.
Bennett,
I'll give you that one.
Stetson Bennett's guy. And then let's all forget Jalen Carter plays defensive tackle for Georgia. I'm going to read you this because I don't think I could sum it up any better. Georgia had 3 defensive linemen selected in the first round of the NFL draft, including number 1 pick Trayvon Walker. Carter, a 310-pounder from Apopka, Florida, might end up being better than all of them. He averaged a tackle on 11.7% of his snaps and led the team with 8.5 tackles for loss last season. ESPN draft guru Mel Kiper has him ranked as the 4th best prospect in the country. Don't forget all that because the Georgia Bulldogs are winning the East, boys. Just telling you how it is. Georgia's going to roll hard over Florida, and it won't be close. And if you want Cottrell, when they play in Jacksonville, I'll give you 14, and that's before even the game, the spreads even starts.
Why are you yelling at me?
14.
I picked Georgia. Why are you yelling at me?
Cottrell.
You said boys. Said boys.
Listen, I'm just going to tell you how it is. I'll lend you 14, and I'll tell you this: Florida doesn't touch the 20s scoring. period. Okay, next for the West. And I hate saying this because I really do. I fell in love with this kid last year. Absolutely fell in love with him. I don't like Alabama. I hate Nick Saban. Always hated him. But he puts together a great program. Bryce Young, I wanted to hate on him as much as possible. But Bryce Young is the best quarterback in the country right now. Is what it is. What he did to that Georgia defense in the SEC title game with Jamison Williams was unreal. But the catalyst of that team, the best player in the country, the consensus Gene Walsack's number one on his big board is Will Anderson. Will Anderson is, and I love watching him play. He's unbelievable. The guy, there was a reverse that Georgia ran that had the entire Alabama defense full, except one person who was trying to be blocked by two people, a left tackle and a fullback, and they couldn't do it. Will Anderson disrupted the entire play and ran it for a loss. It could have been a touchdown, and Will Anderson stopped in the backfield for a -2. The kid does everything, stops the run, gets after the quarterback, is disruptive, can drop back in coverage and reads the screens well. Will Anderson is the best player in the country, and for that reason, the Alabama Crimson Tide will win the SEC. And that's our SEC preview.
The one thing I did want to ask something else onto that, and I didn't even mention it when I was going through my Georgia. Not even not even Georgia hate. They're the constructor of that.
Georgia hate you.
The constructor of that defense is in Oregon, and their best offensive weapons are in the NFL. James Cook, George Pickens, those guys are in the league now. That's a lot of production to rebound
George
from,
Pickens
especially with
had
the new
one reception in the national championship game.
That's fine.
Let's not act like he's the greatest.
Okay, but was he the best receiver on that Georgia team? Was he the best receiver on that Georgia team? Let's be real here. Yes or no?
Brock Bowers was.
He's not a receiver. He's a tight end.
Brock Bowers catches the ball. He's a receiver.
Who was the best? Okay, so you had Travis Kelce on the last list that we just had. Come on, man. What are we doing? Best receiver on that team was George Pickens. He's the last.
Listen, I don't think George is the best thing about Georgia is throwing the football. I think they're going to run the football. I think they're going to play great defense. I think Stetson's going to run it. I think the offensive line is still strong. I think Georgia runs through the conference. I don't think the SEC East, I don't think there's a game they play in the SEC East that's within 10 points.
Who's to say their new DC doesn't screw up their defense?
It's tough to screw up that much talent, bro. It really is. Listen, I could be the worst coach in softball America, but we are not losing to Mike's Bar and Grill Tuesday nights. It's just not happening. I could be terrible at it. It's just not happening. When you have more talent, winners win.
And I'll say this: I don't think the gap is anywhere near what it was last year. I don't believe that. But to Gene's point, I mean, I'll take I'll take the proven thing. I mean, I don't. Cottrell, you could say you don't believe so forth and so on about Georgia, but I mean, Florida didn't show me anywhere near enough next year to think that they're winning the East this year. They have holes everywhere, and even even Richardson. I mean, he had games where he looked lost.
He had a bad coach that put him in terrible situations, and he was fighting for a QB spot that should have rightfully been his all season.
Well, I mean, if you're playing like that, then I don't know if you can rightfully say it's his. Listen, the kid's a great athlete. I mean, I think he has all the talent, but again, for me to pick them, I mean, I would have had to seen it on the field already. I mean, I think you're putting a lot of faith in him taking a couple big steps this year. And if he doesn't, then I think they're an 8-4 team again. I really think they are.
By the way, one more thing I want to add with Alabama. I forgot to say it. I think Billy Napier's a good coach, but I forgot to say it, and I forgot it because I was getting so hype in Alabama. But I'll tell you right now, the best safety in the entire country is on Alabama. Also, Jordan Battle's the best safety in the country, and I think that's another thing that we're not really talking about. Alabama is stacked everywhere, man, everywhere, and I don't know what their receiving core is going to look like right now because they replenish it every year with just absolute monsters. But I have confidence in that program to produce another 4-star kid that's going to go out there and dominate on the outside. We got UFC to talk about, boys. Let's get into UFC. SEC is huge. Next week, Big Ten. Big Ten next week, bro.
Yes, sir.
All right, so UFC 278. Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards. By the way, Leon Edwards is getting a lot of play right now in his press conferences. Just recently, you're shaking your head. What do you mean?
No, I mean you can go. I think people are trying to make this something that it's not.
No, I meant like he's using his time, his moment, and speaking a lot of crap and talking a lot. He just said today that he thinks Jorge Masvidal is not a top 5 striker in the division, and that he's a crap striker. I couldn't believe that when I heard it. I know they don't like each other. You can't say he's not a top 5 striker in the division. That's absurd. But Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman. That's the fight. That's the fight everyone wants to talk about. That's the fight everyone wants to hear. Is there anything that leads you to believe that Kamaru Usman could be upset by Leon Edwards? And I don't know. Maybe one of you guys want to go out on that limb. I've literally broke the branch. I went out on it so many times on Kamaru Usman, I can't do it no more. Kamaru Usman is dominant 170 champion. He's close to Khabib, not Khabib. But yeah.
The simple answer
Leon
is no.
Edwards. Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm not venturing anywhere near a branch on this.
So what do you got? How do you see the fight going?
I'll say 3rd round stoppage.
You think it's stoppage as in like a TKO type stoppage?
Yeah.
I think Leon's the better striker than Kamaru.
Technically, yeah.
I really do. I think Kamaru is just so much more well-rounded and he can take the fight anywhere he wants to. Mm-hmm. That's where I feel like that I could see it happen in a lot of ways. I could see Kamaru catching him. I think Kamaru wins this fight by points, though. I think it's a 4-1 victory. I think a lot of wrestling, a lot of overall clinch game for Kamaru. I think Kamaru wins it 4-1 decision. I think Leon has a very bright moment in the 2nd round. Make people think it's going to be a fight.
I somewhat agree with what you said, Gene. I also have Kamaru winning. I have it by fifth round stoppage. I think it's going to be a TK on the 5th round. Seeing Leon's fight with Nate Diaz go 5 rounds, and Nate catching him in the 5th round. Clearly Leon was winning that fight, but Nate catching him in that 5th round, I think it kind of shows me that Leon he's not used to those 5-round battles. And he, like I said, he was dominant for 4 rounds. And even that 5th round, he was winning it. He just got caught. I think against a guy like Kamaru, he's going to get caught, and there is going to be no escaping that. Kamaru's going to catch you, and he's going to put the pressure on you, and he's going to stop you. If you watch their first fight, it was a 3-round fight. Kamaru won by points. It was a lot of wrestling, a lot of clinch work. And that's the kind of fight that I see it being again. I think Kamaru is going to have him. I think it's going to be more so the clinch this time as opposed to it being necessarily on the ground. I do think Kamaru gets the fight there, but I think Kamaru's more confident in his striking ability to where I don't think it has to always just go to the ground for him to be successful in a round. So I think Kamaru dominates it. I think it's going to be 3-1 going into the 5th, Kamaru's way, and I think he finishes him in that 5th round.
1, 2, Kamaru's coming for you. 3, 4, Leon better lock that door. 5 rounds. I'm done.
I have a question, Gene, because me and Cottrell kind of side on this differently than you do. At what point, what is it going to take, in your opinion, for Usman to go ahead of Khabib?
So I think that if he continues holding the division strong and knocks off Khamzat Chimaev, I think that you could put him equal, and I think that I would look at that as equal. I don't know if I could put him past Khabib. Let me tell you why I can't put him past Khabib. Khabib never, in his entire career, never was even challenged. It almost looked like you were going up against 14-year-olds. There's no, I think in his entire career, he lose 2 rounds. Not a fight. 2 rounds? That's unbelievable. And listen, you can say he was fighting stiffs for his first 18, 19 fights. That's fine. But he went to the 155 division and ran through it like nobody else. The most dominant win over Conor McGregor that we've ever seen. Absolutely destroyed him. Dominant win over Justin Gaethje. Dominant win over Dustin Poirier. I don't know.
I mean, Dustin definitely had him in trouble. I'll say that. Obviously he didn't get the job done. I would say Dustin had him in trouble. But to me, I just think
in trouble.
Yeah, he
caught him.
Yes, he did.
I don't think he was in trouble.
He caught him. He had a guillotine almost locked in. Like that fight he was definitely in some trouble there. But I mean, to your point though, Khabib was dominant, and he was as dominant as it gets. My whole thing though is that to me, if after Kamaru wins this fight, he's past Khabib in my mind. You can't defend your title 4 times and then just be untouchable on a scale. You know, Kamaru has been in the UFC. He hasn't lost any fights in the UFC. He's been defending his belt for going on 4 years now. He's beaten everybody in there. So to beating a guy like Hamzat Chimaev, who's got 3 fights under his belt, that doesn't just catapult you to this level of what Khabib is. And so for me, Kamaru wins this fight, he's already passed Khabib in my mind.
Okay. I mean, listen, you have your opinion. You're a very big Kamaru Usman fan. I don't think him beating Leon Edwards for the second time catapults him past Khabib Nurmagomedov.
It's not necessarily about the win itself. It's more so about how many times he's defended his belt and how many times he's come out on top.
Okay. I think that the reason that Khabib didn't get a chance to defend his belt as much as Kamaru Usman is because for 3 years the entire division ran from him. And if you don't believe that's accurate, man, bro, listen,
that's
Dante,
fine.
I'm sure that you've heard that too. My point is, for 3 years, everyone ducked him.
Before he was
fighting
champion.
People, anybody. He was begging people to fight.
Correct.
They didn't want to fight him.
Let's not act like though he had matches against Tony Ferguson that got canceled. That wasn't Tony Ferguson's fault all the time. So it wasn't like people were just ducking him, And you have to also factor in Khabib had Ramadan, so he wasn't fighting for a long periods of time throughout the year. So I'm not gonna say that it's necessarily people were always ducking him. I mean, yes, that was the case, but also it was also partially on Khabib.
No, he had to beg for fights, man. He was begging for fights.
So every time his Tony Ferguson fight got canceled, it was Tony's fault. Is what you're telling me?
No, it wasn't Tony's fault every time. It's fair. I'm not gonna hold his religion against him.
But it's part of the reason why he wasn't fighting as much as Kamaru does. I'm not holding it against him, but I mean it's a fact.
Yeah. Listen, I just looked it up just to make sure I was correct on what I was saying. Khabib never was challenged. I look at Kamaru Usman as you could have gave Colby Covington the last fight. I wouldn't. But you could have scored that fight 3-2 Colby Covington. 100%.
When you say challenge, do you mean like the entirety of the fight? Like, I mean, if you go back and actually watch the fight against Poirier,
Poirier caught him one time.
Correct. And if you keep looking through it,
that doesn't mean that
he had a guillotine almost locked in.
I watched that entire fight 3 times, Cottrell. He stunned him. And then had a guillotine, which you could say it was locked in. I don't think it was locked in.
I didn't say it was locked in. I said it was
close. Chin down. It was close to being put in a submission hold in which he may or may not have tapped one time in his 30-fight career. Come on, man. That's your argument.
You said he got stunned. So being stunned are you not in trouble when you get stunned? Like, help me out in your definitions here.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Was there ever a point you thought Khabib was going to lose that fight?
No. Well,
Okay.
I mean, outside of that specific moment, if it goes to the points,
I've watched
then
Kamaru Usman fight multiple times where I'm like, oh, Colby could win this fight. Colby took him to the edge twice, bro. He did. 3-2 in both fights. Well, the fifth fight. I'm lying. Because the first fight, it was the 5th round KO. But in that fight, it could have been 2-2.
I agree. But he won. I don't care how you get there.
Correct. Winning, no, that's not fair. That's not fair.
Why not?
All right, so let me give you an example. The 1992 Dream Team that went undefeated and beat everybody by 50. The 2008 Redeem Team that won undefeated and beat teams by 13. What team is better?
That's not even a close comparison.
Why? They all won. Winning is winning.
That's not a close comparison.
I'm using your example.
It's not a close comparison. It's not a close comparison because when, like I said, Khabib defended his belt 4 times. Kamaru's done it for 4 years now. It's not close. And to add on to that,
guys twice, every one of them.
To add on to that, you could argue
twice, Colby twice, Leon.
You could argue when Charles Oliveira's career is all said and done, you could argue that he's the best 155er ever. So I want to see Khabib come back and fight Charles.
Why?
You want to see Khabib come back and
Charles did in less impressive fashion?
Why is it? See, the standard is so different. So I guess you beat 4 guys and you're goated. You can't be beat. If you go undefeated, you beat those 4 guys. It is what it is.
4 guys. You're saying 4 guys as a title contender, bro. It's not just 4 guys. So Michael Johnson's not a guy. Edson Barbosa is not a guy.
Michael
Rafael
Johnson
Dos Anjos is not a guy.
But everybody that you said outside of
fighters,
everybody that you said outside of RDA have not held a championship belt. Their quality, they're quality.
Okay, so who has Kamaru Usman beat that held a championship belt?
Tyron Woodley held a championship belt.
Okay. So he's the only win that we give him credit for.
Yoel Romero is I'd say one of the best welterweights ever.
Yoel Romero's the biggest juicer ever.
So and he beat him. So what do you say about he beat the guy that
gave me Yoel Romero
and you gave me Michael Johnson. What are we doing?
Bro, I give you his non-title fights. I can give you his title fights. Gaethje, Poirier, McGregor, Iaquinta. They're not bad fighters.
And you give me Iaquinta on short notice. Come on.
Iaquinta's not a good argument for that.
Yeah, because he fought him on short notice. And Iaquinta got around.
I had 50-45.
The judges had it. The other 49.
The judges had it 50-44. One of them had it 49-46, but I mean, let's not pretend that he was ever in trouble in that fight.
I didn't say he was in trouble, but we're talking about Iaquinta, who was hardly ever had a possibility to get into the top 5. He just filled into the spot because somebody dropped, and we never got to see him fight Tony Ferguson.
I'm changing my pick. Leon Edwards is going to knock him out because you keep. I'm just kidding.
That's fine.
Go. I'm rooting for Leon though.
I'm rooting for Charles.
Trying to disrespect. Listen. I want Charles to beat Islam. So let me ask you a question. If Charles loses to Islam, what would your? Let me ask you a question. Would you ask? Would you change your opinion on Charles if Islam beats him? Or let me take it a step further. Is Islam now better than Khabib Nurmagomedov because Islam beat Charles? Because the point is being made that Khabib not only did he win the title and in dominant fashion and never lost 2 rounds his whole career. Then he went on to train the next guy to dominate the division, and Islam hasn't lost. So,
I'm a big Islam fan.
What's the excuse then? Well, when Islam wins, what's the excuse then?
There is no excuse. It's not taken away from Khabib. My point is that Kamaru, he fights the guy. Khabib, he said, "Hey, I got my good 4 wins. I'm out." Kamaru, he stuck around. He's beaten the guys Leon Edwards and Kobe and Tyron Woodley and all that. And now he's got the next best thing up in Khamzat Chimaev. And then if he gets that, that's another step up. That's fine. That's fine. But I'm not going to say he's the golden boy and that he's the greatest ever and nobody can ever touch him when he only defended his belt 4 times. I can't do that. I'm sorry.
Fair. I get it. So when he beats Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman's now past Khabib. So right now he's not past him, but the Leon Edwards win's going to give you the
like I said,
to put him above him.
It's a numbers thing. You defend your belt 5-6 times against and compare it to a guy who's only did it 4 times. Yeah, you get that edge from me.
Okay. What is your thoughts on that, Charlie? I just want to understand a little bit.
I think beating better quality fighters is more important than the way in which you win. I think if Usman has a better, track record and better wins when it's all said and done than Khabib does. Then I think I said when he's all said and done, before you get all defensive, I said before, if that's the case, then I think that's more impressive than the fact that Khabib was dominant for 4 fights. If Usman keeps beating people that are good fighters and holds the belt for another 3 years, then yeah, I don't think it's close. I mean, it's either championship fights. The goal of a fight is to win a fight. I know, it's if you look dominant, that's great. But if he kind of took his ball and went home, and that's fine. I mean, there's mystique to it. I get it.
That's really took his ball and went home.
What's the best?
Like a baby?
What's the best division in UFC right now?
155.
I'd love to see if he was still fighting in it. That's all I'm saying.
And beaten who? All the guys he beat already?
Has he beaten Islam? Has he beaten Charles? Has he beaten Michael Chandler? The answer is no.
He's not going to fight Islam.
Well, he's not going to fight Islam. He's never going to fight Islam.
Of course not. But I'm just saying that's my point though. Like there's 3 guys that he hasn't beat.
I hope Charles beats Islam. So Khabib comes out of retirement and beats the crap out of Charles, and then it can shut your argument up.
Hey, if he does that.
And by the way, they defended their titles. Now, you said they defended their titles. Kamaru will defend it 7 times.
I didn't say that. I said 5 or 6.
Khabib only 4. Well, no, this would be a 7th time.
Okay.
I'm looking at it. But they fought the same amount of people for the title. Colby twice, Jorge twice. It's one fighter. So the wins over Jorge twice is still 1 fighter.
I don't like that.
Let's get into you got to be kidding me. Why you got to be kidding me is Cottrell.
My you got to be kidding me is Gene.
Cottrell starts off for you got to be kidding me.
I don't even have one this week. I'm angry.
Don't be angry. Listen, I'd be angry if I was wrong too.
Hey, I'm right. I'll be on the right side of history come Sunday morning about 1:30 a.m.
You'd be on the right side of history when he beats Leon Edwards for the second time?
Mount Rushmore, Kamaru Usman.
Oh, come on. Phil, you put him above Khabib when he beats Leon Edwards for the second time?
Did you not listen to what I just said?
You said when it's all said and done. I heard what you said.
Yeah, so I'm talking. I'm talking about if he keeps the belt for the next 3 years and keeps beating everybody there is in 170, and Khabib does not come back, then yes, he's ahead of Khabib for me.
That's fair. I follow that. Do you have Khabib ahead of him right now?
No.
So you don't have Khabib ahead of him right now, then?
Oh no. Yeah, but if you
no, I do. Sorry, I thought you asked it the other way around.
So right now you have Khabib ahead of Usman. See, the point is this, right? If Khamzat destroys Nate like we know he's going to, and gets the next fight versus Usman, and Usman just dominates Khamzat Chimaev,
and then retires,
you're not gonna. I would have them on the same playing field. There'd be no 1A, no 1B. It would be the same playing field. And by the way, Eric, the ball was foul. It wasn't foul by much, but I was standing right next to it. It was foul.
Ball was fair. But
you can't say that. I was sitting right next to it. I watched where it landed.
It was fair. But you can't so how are you justifying at that point 8 title defenses versus 4 though? And here's my other question then though. I said he took his ball, went home, which is pretty much what he did. Then his dad passed away, and you're harping on that. But then, what's the defense of him coming back?
Dad passed away before he took his ball, went home.
If Oliveira wins, so then it's not about that. Then you're saying that the holy grail of all this is he gave his word to his father that he wasn't going to fight anymore.
That was going to be his last fight.
Okay,
No,
so that's
that
the
was
last fight. No. So that's his last fight then. So then if he comes back, then it really wasn't about that then. If you give your word to your dying father and then he passes away and then you still come back, then that word didn't mean shit.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
All right, so then it wasn't about that then. It was about something else, which leads more to Cottrell's point. He didn't want to do it anymore and he rolled. That's fine. You're 4-0. You don't think anybody can beat you. That's fine. But let's just be honest about it. Let's just be honest about it. That's all. That's all I want. Let's just say what it is. That's all.
Listen, you can say what it is. I'm telling you, I watched both fighters, and Khabib is a better fighter. Period.
That's not what I'm discussing right now. I'm talking about his excuse for leaving.
We're talking about what ifs. He's not came out of retirement. We can have that conversation.
Okay, so
then if he's out of retirement.
But then if he's not, then 2 years from now, if Usman still has the belt, then yeah, he's ahead of him. There's no argument for Khabib anymore. That's all.
But
that
even why is it a different story if he beats, let's say, guys that he's already beat again? Because I mean, outside of Hamzat, who else in that division up and coming that is worth anything? He's gonna have to run through the division again. So
you never know. He might go to 185.
He's not gonna fight.
Izzy. There's no way.
I wish he'd fight Izzy. He's not gonna fight Izzy though.
Bill, do you have a "you got to be kidding me" this week?
I do.
All right,
I'm not as mad as Cottrell, so I have him.
Cottrell just wasn't prepared, and he used his anger as an excuse.
Tiny
already called him out on that shit.
That's funny. Mine this week, I'm going to go with Randolfo Castro from the Pittsburgh Pirates. If you haven't seen the viral clip yet, hit a triple last week and went sliding to third, and his iPhone popped out of his pocket. There's just no freaking good reason for this. Funniest part of it is the umpire looking at what's going on. He goes, "Oh yeah, he had his phone on. I had his phone on the field." I don't get it. You can't live tweet while you're running the bases, or there's just no excuse whatsoever to have your cell phone in your back pocket while you're playing the game of baseball at the professional level. He did get fined and he got suspended a game, and I probably would have gave him more, to be honest. It's just silly and it's stupid. I understand you want to connect with your fans, your Twitter followers, et cetera, et cetera. I get it. Do it from the dugout, man. Don't disgrace the game and have your cell phone in your back pocket when you're running around the bases. So this one, kind of silly, but not at the same time. So this week, Randolfo Castro for me.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
To be clear, you can't even have your phone in the dugout, can you? Like, that's against the rules, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look it up. I don't think you're technically supposed to have it in your dugout because it leads into the whole,
cheating.
You can record people's signs and stuff like that. Obviously, you're allowed to have them in the clubhouse. It's not as strict as football, because I know football, like, you're not even allowed to be on it at all if you're in the middle of the game. Like, you can't even go on your phone at halftime. So it's not that strict, but I don't think you're supposed to have them in the dugout now.
All right, so for me, it's really simple, and I should have sent Dante the clip of this, but a Little League World Series game, and it sucks the way it happened, and you've probably seen the viral video a million times. Kids from Washington were in the World Series. I examined the play a lot more after my initial reaction. My initial reaction was that Washington would have lost one way or the other. I thought the runner was on second base and the guy hit a single down the line and the runner would have scored from second. He wasn't on second base. He was on first base. If you haven't seen the video yet, Oregon? Was it Oregon, Bill?
Because it was a regional. Had to be, Oregon.
It was Oregon versus Washington.
Kid
from Oregon. There's one out. There's a runner on first base in a tie game, 2-2, bottom of the last inning. Kid hits a ground ball down the third baseline. It is a fair ball. Umpire throws his hands up, foul. It landed. They reviewed it and said it landed fair. But the umpire put his hands up to stop the play and yelled foul. The home plate umpire yelled fair. Look, he's got the video. Watch the video. This is incredible. I don't know how you do this. You're so good, Dante. You have to do this. The whole at bat? I love it. This is it's incredible this happened. But if he hits a ball down the third baseline and it's a fair ball, I think it already happened at this point. I don't know what's going on. Oh, here it is. Yeah, this is it right before. Must have been this pitch. Yep, here it is. Ground ball down the line. Umpire has his hands up, yelling foul. Third baseman's not even moving. The kid keeps running because the home plate umpire called fair and scores the game-winning run. That is incredible to me that this was allowed to happen. So they challenged it. They reviewed the play, and they still didn't get it right. And listen, I know they're volunteer umpires, and I don't want to trash umpires at all. But you called the ball foul. Dead ball needs to happen. And as unfortunate as it would be for the kids from Oregon who advanced, it is even more unfortunate for the kids from Washington that have to go home after they stop when an umpire yelled foul.
No, Washington
So
won.
for that, okay, so Oregon lost?
Yeah, Washington won. Yeah, you just had the teams backwards. That's all.
That's okay. So for that reason, the Little League World Series, umpires and review team.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
If you watch that again as well, you see the shortstop actually stop running too. It just it sucks. I don't know what to say. Who do you got? Who you picking for the League World Series though? Starts tomorrow.
I don't have a pick.
We're going Honolulu. Flying
New Jersey's team.
New Jersey's team. I don't think New Jersey even in it.
They did. They had two.
New Jersey played New York in did they beat New York in the regional qualifier?
I thought they did.
No, New York won.
Give me New York then.
That's New York.
Massapequa, New York. They're in it. They're odds on. Actually, they're the second favorite.
Who's the favorite? Hawaii?
Yeah.
Of course you would pick them then.
No, I actually watched them play.
Deep dive in some favorites.
No, I actually watched them play. They're good.
Out of curiosity, you guys are no better than me. You delinquents. Can you bet on the Little League World Series?
You absolutely can.
What? Can you really?
Yes.
That is so bad. You should not be able to bet on. Come on, Dante, play the sound again,
bro. I'm not saying I do, but dude, like you do realize like some betting sites allow you to bet on wrestling, right? Like
you 11-year-old bastard. Come on.
Like
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Like that shit's scripted and you can bet on it.
I actually want to bet on it might be $25, $50. I actually want to bet on a Little League World Series game if you can. I didn't know this was actually a thing. And I want to have action on a Little League World Series game just so I can watch the game and see if my opinions of the 12-year-olds change.
I don't think all books.
By the way,
I'm checking FanDuel right now. I don't know if all books take it if they have it, but I'm looking right now. Hold on.
But and one more thing, not permitted. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Listen, look at Dante. Look at Dante.
Fact checking
not
us.
Permitted. I love it. Fact checking it.
Good.
So it's
fact checks.
It's all
under the table.
Offshore. It's all offshore.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I'll take money on it.
That's funny.
I would love to just for fun. That's crazy. All right, well, it's been a fun show 97. If you haven't listened, subscribe to us on YouTube, download us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, anywhere you can listen to podcasts. Give us a follow, leave us a review. 5-star review would do wonders. Any final thoughts for anyone out there?
Nope.
No. Next week's the big week, and then following week we do our official NFL and college football preview show. So I'm excited, baby. It's the best time of year.
Well, shout out to Dante Sell and East Coast Gridiron family. I can't wait to do the fantasy football draft. I want to take it a step further and kind of give Dante even more of a shout out. I think that we're going to have a great season, but we're going to do a top 40 list because Dante started this top 40 quarterback list. So we're going to do a top 40 list, a wire-to-wire one, or I'll just do my own, Gene. It's going to be tough for us to agree on one. You guys can do your own if you want. But, yeah, do your own. That's fine. A top
Deshaun
40
Watson's
quarterbacks
40.
in all of football.
Fair enough.
We could. I just would lose my mind because these two guys are going to outvote me on a couple things that I won't agree with. But
Yeah, go ahead.
like Joe Burrow is ahead of Justin Herbert.
Negative.
That's fine.
I won't outvote you on that.
I would say that's just me. I mean, I'm more the Herbert guy than you guys are. Than Contrell is.
I love Justin Herbert. I have
so do I, dude. Again, I think they're right next to each other. I like if I have Herbert 5, Burrow 6, or like whatever the numbers work out to be. Like I don't think there's like something. I just like Herbert better in the long run.
another. You got to be kidding me! Could have been the kid that had for his favorite actor / actress in the Little League World Series. He listed Alexis Texas.
Is that real though, or did somebody edit that one? Because I find it hard to believe
real,
they let that go. Because I saw.
They let it go.
That's funny then. Because I saw in his first at bat when they said what job he wanted. He said he wanted to be a chicken nugget taste tester. That was his dream job. That kid's obviously got a sense of humor.
He's going
for him. Yeah, he is.
All right. Well, that's show 97. Thank you for listening. Follow Wire to Wire Sports Podcast and ECG. And with that, this week, we are signing out.
Herbert.